The farm itself was purchased in 1971, and it was purchased under the umbrella of a nonprofit corporation which had been established in the middle 60s for educational purposes and for training and so forth. We'd been looking for a long time to get a Walden 2 type setting going. I certainly got to be good friends with Skinner. We were on the Dick Cavett show together, and when asked what's the most important work that he has produced, he told Dick Cavett Walden 2.
Golden Walden 2. Is that the world of the future? Walden 2 is the world of the future.
Walden 2 sort of served as a impetus for thinking about getting back to the earth, getting back into a home setting where you were closer in touch with your children, and you were closer in touch with the earth, you were closer in touch with the food you grew, and not as prone to the violence that was going on. We found this farm and we bought it. It's kind of settled in. I mean, when we first moved out, we didn't have equipment, we didn't have animals, we didn't have anything. We just started from an idea, and over the years it grew into a farm.
It's a little Eden sitting on that edge of, Kalamazoo. I mean, it's crazy how people don't really, they don't believe me when I say that I live here and there's 300 acres and everything. They're like, in Kalamazoo?
When I went to Western, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to start a fraternity. And so I said, okay. So he and I started what's now the Sigma Nu chapter at Western, Michigan. And I think when I was getting involved in that, what I wanted was this sense of community. And it was fun. I had some good times in it, but it wasn't, a lot of it was seemed to be based around alcohol. But when I came to the farm, that seemed to be the sense of community I was looking for.
When we were debating about moving here, I was looking for a way to get around putting Jack in a structured daycare. And I think it was Roger who said to me, what's a strapping girl like you doing living downtown when you could be out here doing chores and the boy could get some fresh air? And I obviously didn't know what I was doing. Strangely, I felt more confident about everything I saw and felt here and the people being acquainted with them than any of the daycares I'd ever seen.
So how does it feel, Jack, to be riding a pig?
Kind of scary, kind of fun.
Scratch his back. Scratch his back. Scratch his back.
I am.
Okay. Good job.
When I say I moved here because I thought it would be good for the boy, it was other things besides the fresh air and the back to the land issue. It really was the community. It was that there were adults with a little free attention who could keep an eye on him.
See how he likes to be scratched like this?
Yeah.
If you don't scratch him, Boy, that was fun.
Yeah, it sure was.
Always remember to scratch the pig.
Yeah.
If you don't scratch the pig, he'll run on you.
The business of Jack being cared for by people that I knew and being in a place where he would get really rich experiences really paid off. Jack used to bug me to go to summer camp, and I would be all pain in the ass parent and say, Jack, you live in a summer camp. I'm not sending you to summer camp. It's not happening. Big Big Pig! Breakfast!
I love goat cheese, and I wanted to open a creamery downtown making cheese. And then I started going to visit other creameries and other goat keepers in the state, and I just fell in love with the animals because they are so personable, and they have so much personality, and they're kind of troublemakers, which I like.
She found this place to do an internship with some goats. And prior to that, we were already thinking about trying to live communally with other folks in Vermont in this intended community. And we wanted to do some farming and try to get closer to our food source and to try to live with other folks and get to know people and develop some relationships.
When I first came to Lake Village, my only expectation was to get a roof over my head. And I came out here, and then once I saw how the people cared, they'd sit down and talk to you. Wanted to know a little bit about your past. Roger asked me one day, when we got on Vietnam, he said, well, you were in Vietnam, I see your Marine Corps tattoo. And I said, yeah. He said, what do you think about these protesters? And I said, well, I really would have had no problem with the protesters during Vietnam. Those conscientious objectors, I would say, come on home. And I'd have M60 nests lined up along the Canadian border, and I'd cut them down. He looked at me. He said, well, you would have shot me. So it be. Now, in high school, right, class clown, number one, and also I was best dressed. Best dressed class clown. I mean, man, teachers loved me. I just had so much fun. I used to do a Tarzan call in the hallways. Married homecoming queen. And then I went to Vietnam. Enlisted in the Marine Corps. Felt I had to do my duty. When I came home, this little blonde-haired goody two-shoe guy that married the homecoming queen was a little different. I was very aggressive. I drank a lot, partied, became a biker. I got tattoos all up and down my arms. I mean, I've done everything a man can do in life. From the very nice Mr. Clean, squeaky squeak guy to just the dirtiest, low-down piece of crap. And that's what I was, a piece of crap. All right? All I did was hurt people.
We moved here when I was Della's age, actually, when I was 9 years old. I loved it because we had horses, and I loved horses, and there was a lot of freedom. There was a lot of room to run around. And I just really wanted for Della, for my daughter, to be able to have the same kind of experiences. You know, that maybe she would really love the same things that I did.
I had a daughter, called her Annabelle. She's the apple of my eyes. Tried to give her something like I never had. I didn't want to ever hear her cry.
When we first moved out to the property, to Lake Village, it was when I first started going to public school. And it was then started to become apparent to me that some of the customs of my family weren't necessarily the norm. The thing about not living in a nuclear family that was really beneficial for me was that I saw that there were all different kinds of ways of being and different ways to live, you know, and I just felt like, I don't know, it kind of made me feel like I could live however I wanted or be however I wanted to be.
It wasn't so much like being a hippie, it was kind of like being a citizen of the world.
You know, I think that the hippies were really, at that time, were really saying, look, we got to really look at what we're doing to our planet. We got to kind of change our lifestyle. There was so much hope about how the world could be.
Multiculturalism and anti-colonialism were a major way of corralling a lot of ideas about simplifying, getting back to the land, political activism.
There was a period of time in the history of Lake Village when there was a group of people called the Native American Association. They built a sweat lodge down by the lake. We would do, sweat ceremonies down there and then go jump in the lake, once we were really hot.
Honoring the Native American spirit and believing in it and thinking that there are a lot of things that we've done as European ethnic cultural thinking people that displaced those kinds of ethics, and people were thinking, well, we should go back to that a little bit. What's finally happened is that the people who stayed are like the Indians. This is a modern teepee. The early 70s, just coming out of the 60s and so forth, there was a lot of behavior all over in terms of smoking pot, doing acid, playing with cocaine, and all that kind of stuff. And some people talked about, well, how do you shoot it up? And so what's that feel like? And I said, well, okay, let's give that a whirl. And I shot up some cocaine and dropped LSD. As I was coming down from the cocaine, the acid kicked in. Instead of exaggerating the fun time of the high of the cocaine, it started exaggerating the downtime of the cocaine. So all of, not just my life passed before my eyes, all of creation passed before my eyes. I was there trying to keep up with everything I knew about the evolution of the whole universe, and all of a sudden, my mind broke. It just, everything stopped, and I said, holy damn, I mean, and the thought came across that now you've done it, buddy, you're in hell. And then things got worse. Hell then started to occur. I started hearing, any little grinding in my stomach or anything like that roared louder and everything, and where I shot up the cocaine in my arm started throbbing worse and worse and worse, and the LSD exaggerated that. And then I experienced dying. So okay, I suddenly realized I was dead. And so wow, what a break. Thank you, Jesus. I mean, it was like, I was so happy that I finally died.
As laws got tougher and tougher, it was like, no, this land is worth so much more than drugs. The policy of the farm became, no, we're not going to have it out here.
Love is a precious thing untold. Burns just like West Virginia gold. But when the fire dies down, it's cold. There ain't no ash will burn.
We used to go skinny dipping. That was kind of a hippie thing to do. Actually, we had to have a meeting where we had to say, okay, we have to stop skinny dipping. There can be no more skinny dipping. There can be no more, taking off your top when you're down by the beach, because the people on the lake are, complaining or, calling the authorities. There's bare naked people over there.
It's always the straight edge Republican person who thinks that the farm is all about the drugs and the sex and the lack of social convention. And it's really hard to break it to them that, well, even some of the people that move here would like it to be that, but really it's mostly about being exhausted. It's really just a lot of work. And if you have the time and the energy for all that, get out of the way.
Man, this is going to be good, nutrient-rich soil, huh?
Yeah.
It's cool.
There's a cage, an enclosure, that is really only fit for birds up there, but it's cool. It has branches that come in from the side, and as you can see, this is like, very non-standard carpentry. I admire whatever hippie built that. I loved the 70s carpentry when I first got here. And it was a surprise. I hadn't seen, you know, wacky fieldstone steps. And I loved all the weird split beam stuff. And I was astonished and also loved the fences.
The way the fences are put together, it is to me like a big, beautiful painting. They're not all made out of brand new steel. Sometimes we had money for that. Then other times we just had money for pallets or an old paper mill that was on its way to the landfill.
You know, you just never get tired of walking out back and seeing what the hell is stuck in that fence. When I first got here, there was a crutch in the fence up at the house. Okay, one of the horses is in the fence. Uh-oh, this is a big thing. Oh. Hey Aaron, it's Kathy calling. It's Sunday morning and I'm doing chores. And Ryan and I were out and about, and Reno had a problem where she was wedged in a piece of fence that he may have tangled with and then yanked down. It's a gate. You know what, I'm going to get under there and just kick its foot. That's what I'm going to do. Because I don't think it can hurt me. I know it. Move your foot. Can you move it? Oh, its butt is too close. He seems now to be walking on it. But sorry for the worry for your horse. And I hope it turns out okay. I'll try to look at him again before you're done. Maybe I'll talk to you. Bye. Boy. If you could even anticipate all the places a horse could stick his foot through a fence, would you then have the time or the wherewithal to pay someone to deal with all of them? Clearly we don't. My dad uses this phrase, hanging and banging, that you proceed through your day with everything flying off of you. Clearly we choose to proceed that way, for better or for worse.
1995, I lived right on the main farm, and I lived in what we call like a barn complex. You know, there's maybe 300 people have lived throughout that barn complex. But in 1995 was what we call the year of the bust, was when there was a person living out here that was disgruntled, and he called the township in, and the township came out.
Okay, you've invited us over to take a look at your apartment because you have some concerns on the apartment, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
If I'm leaving, I don't see that I own anything.
No.
Okay? But the fact of the matter is, that's the con game that's played out here. You are a shareholder, you're part owner. So
Were you ever issued any kind of paper showing shares of anything?
Never.
Benito?
Benito?
Hi, how are you? You are also renting here from Mr. Ulrich?
Huh?
You are renting here in this apartment?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been here?
Here.
Living here?
What year did you come here, Benito?
14 years.
14 years? Is there any other way of escaping this building other than that stairway over here?
No other way. This is the only form of water that I have in this apartment. I have no bathroom.
Now, is this an operating stove here?
Yes, it is. And I was using it all last night. I just
This is how you heat this?
In it. Yep. Mm-hmm. The
Oh.
propane and the electric is not enough to keep this place warm.
Oh.
Benito is a 63-year-old stroke victim. He needs to be warm. Without the heat in here, it would only be at the most maybe 45 degrees.
Again, we want to thank you from a township standpoint for inviting us over to see, I think, what I consider deplorable conditions for someone to live in.
Everybody left the farm then in 1995.
We had to move. We had to get all of our belongings and get out of there in a day or something. It felt really horrible to have to just move out of our home.
Formally, they had asked everyone who had been living here to go for obvious legal reasons and to clarify things and to start over.
And that was a real hard time because we were in court, we were dealing with attorneys and legal fees, and felt very unfair as far as not being able to use those barns for housing.
And we had to move toward building new housing and getting housing up to code and so forth.
All goes by so fast. Everything looks smaller looking back.
So at the time that Jack and I moved here, there was a guy named Dwight Malaparte who arrived in a hippie bus. And I think his arrival was so sudden and unannounced that nobody even really thought about whether it was a good idea or not so soon after the bus. For all that they were dealing with, they did kind of suck it up and pause and go, okay, we'll let the guy in the bus stay.
A lot of people, if you looked at my background, you say, I ain't gonna have no burnout, druggy biker out here. You know, with swastikas all over his body. You'd go, not my book. All right? But that wasn't me anymore.
People move here when they're figuring things out or when they're in a position to kind of chuck what they used to be doing, let's put it that way. So that's when you meet them. You meet them when they've already chucked a little bit of their old habits or are figuring out what their new habits are, or maybe even just remembering what they like their habits to be.
Work wasn't making any sense to me anymore. Go to a job to get money, to pay for bills, to pay for gas, and things that I didn't enjoy doing anyways. And here I wanted to try to live a more simple life where I eliminated the middleman, where I could work off my place to live and work off some of my food. I was just having a real hard time going to work every day and collecting a paycheck and doing it that way. And I didn't really like it anymore, and I got fed up with it.
Well, we're coming up on the anniversary of our first year.
We'll be here April our first year.
The first year has included castrating bulls, which was a pretty big experience.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Disbudding the goats, which means getting rid of their horns by kind of soldering the blood vessels around their horns, which is a pretty nasty thing to do. And those are the parts that you don't necessarily, or that I didn't necessarily think a lot about when I sit down to drink a glass of milk or eat a steak. Now I think about all the work energy that went into raising those animals. Oh, that should be on. He's a little spastic today.
You ladies kept it together tonight? People who, people who maybe move here and start spending all their time as they've always maybe dreamed back to the land. In the first year, there's a lot of unpacking of their fantasies. Here's how I thought it was going to be.
When I think of living in a communally run spot, I think of democracy and transparency and lots of meetings and lots of democratically made decisions where everybody who lives there has a vote. And we don't come together and meet and make decisions as a whole.
I see it as being very cooperative. At the same time, I also see it as being very indigenous in the sense of like, well, who are the elders? Who are the people that have a lot of experience and knowledge to make certain decisions?
There are a set of principles called the Rochdale Principles, and there are other models that have been developed that are meant to govern cooperative living and cooperation. And we don't have a set of principles here at this community as far as I've been able to tell in the year that we follow.
And so we do have a lot of folks that do come to the farm, and sometimes with very little experience, but they want to make a lot of the decisions that end up deciding how resources get spent and what gets done.
Our board meets once a year, and that's once a year. I think there could be more activity on that level. There's something in between meeting every time that something gets changed and meeting once a year. So I'm looking for a better balance in that way. To be more involved in like group decision making. If I were to design a utopian community. Hey. Hey. Hello. I can hear you. I love animals so much, you know, and I just I make friends with them, like even the pigs. I kind of am thinking about, you know, do I really want to eat, you know, another living being? You can talk to the animals and they'll listen. They won't you know, they won't say anything back, judgmental or anything.
If a person ever has problems interacting with people, an animal will always love you. They don't look at what you look like. They don't look at what you're wearing or what you've done. They accept you because you're kind and loving to them. Now, why can't we do that with people? We can't do it.
Last Thursday, we stopped milking Tag. And she thinks that she's still supposed to get milked, though, because she got in the habit of it. So she came up to the gate, and I was like, no, Tag. And I pushed her back. She literally, she stepped back, and she looked at me, and she shook her ears, and she went like that. And turned around and walked away. She was, so mad. I befriend the goats. And then so, if any of them are killed for meat or something, that's really hard for me to handle. So then I think, you know, if I'm going to feel that way about goats, you know, why not? Okay, come up there. Why not the cows? You know, they're living beings too, and why should I eat one and not the other?
I love to ride. I love to just look at them in the field. They're just beautiful creatures, and I don't know, there's something really soothing and energizing to me about being with horses. And, you know, part of it also might be kind of nostalgic because since I did grow up with them, and I had such a great childhood, that when I ride, it kind of, you know, I get the same feeling that I had, you know, when I was a kid.
Back, baby, back in time. I wanna go back when you were mine. Back, baby, back in time. I wanna go back when you were mine.
That's another sign is keeping an eye on
How full?
What's that?
How full will it be?
Well, typically it'll really start to drop. Like you would squeeze it and milk would come out. Squeeze one of the teats. It doesn't look that full right now.
Yeah, it doesn't
But
look
a couple days before or a day before, it'll just really drop and a lot of milk will be generated in there.
Okay, I'll keep an eye then.
And same with, supposedly the others are coming first, Brownie and Daisy.
All right, girls, let me know when you're going to have babies, okay? You call me. I have my number.
No, he's probably pulling out. Looks like she's got it about handled. Shit. There we go. And it's kicking. Yeah, Mama. Hey. Oh my goodness, no way. Oh my goodness. Slid right out, huh?
Oh, another one.
Another one I'm coming?
Oh.
Or is that just
No, that's another one.
That looks like birth.
Whoa, look at that.
Protein packed.
Huh.
think it's very strange that she's like eating her placenta.
Yeah,
Well,
nothing
goes to waste
that's
in
why
nature,
she does
you
it. There's
know.
stuff
Yeah.
in there that she needs.
She probably
Yeah,
needs
nothing
after
goes
it.
to
Yeah,
There's
you're
even
right.
some. I've even
Yeah.
heard of old school humans that
Yeah.
do that.
In some cultures, I think people probably still do.
There she goes. She's doing a pushing.
Look at that.
Kids are learning too. They're
Wow,
learning a
yeah,
lot.
that's head first. Good girl.
Wow.
Yay.
Holy cow.
That's a strong one there.
Yeah, right out. Wow.
No, that's not what just came out of you.
How's that fire doing, hon? And you are so cute. I've been calling this one Chopper because it's a little Morning, mister. Mother's looking a little stiff over there, huh?
Wow.
Days go by down on the street. I hear the noise and I feel the heat. Wanna get up in the hills.
Jade, Taylor, Reese, and Joshua.
Everything will be alright. Take that ride with me tonight. I wanna get my fill. Take my time. Take my time. Love takes time to know. Take my time. Take my time. On my way back home.
I remember when Ella was maybe 4, we walked into the corral and the butcher was out and they had just slaughtered an animal and they had it hanging on the hoist and the skin was being taken off it was being gutted, and she's like, "Daddy, what are they doing to that cow?" And I said, they've shot the cow and that's they're now butchering it and that's where our meat comes from. And she said, "Oh, okay." And then she ran through the blood puddle to meet up with her friend Della, who was on the other side. And that was it.
Attractive young honors college lady one day said, doesn't it hurt the mother hen when the little chicks nurse her with those little hard beaks? And I thought, you putting me on? People said, Roger, you're always talking about food. Food, this is no big deal. You can just go up to Myers and buy some. Or you can go out to a restaurant. And some of my honors college students at Western, that's the way that they got to think. And it's not their fault. That's where we slipped over the years, getting so far away from the reality of our lives and what sustains us.
We've put a lot of time and energy to raise this chicken, and we're very thankful for it. And
We're gonna drop it in there.
And we give a lot of blessings to it.
Is it going in there?
Yeah, it's going to go in there. Yeah. So this is a vital part of the farm.
Now what's happened is the chicken is dead, okay? But its nerves, there's still blood flowing through its body, so its nerves are still firing, and that's why it continues to move. The brain has been disconnected from the body, but there's still the nerves moving because there's still blood flowing through the body.
And this really brings you close to know where your food really comes from, because I don't think a lot of people know how their chicken nuggets get on their plate from McDonald's. And it really brings it back home. It brings your food source really close to your heart and soul.
And what's really valuable is that chicken and the egg that it lays and the garden where it grows tomatoes and broccoli and all the food, and the goats that are behind me here that you can milk. And when you get down to it, we can't do diddly squat if we can't eat.
They're mean little buggers, these guys. They try to bite you.
This one likes to eat my foot. Look at him! Ow!
Do they really hurt you? Exaggerating.
I'm exaggerating.
Oh, okay.
But it feels like they're gonna eat my toes.
No, he won't eat your toes.
Ah!
They're eating the poop on your toe.
Ew.
Most of our food, 80% of it, has come from this farm and probably a 100-mile radius of where we live. Being really close to our food source now than we've ever been in our life, which Rachel and I were both looking for, trying to be more environmentally conscious of our actions in every course of the way. And I think a lot of it comes down to food, since the average piece of food is what trucked 1,500 miles to our mouths.
Man, it costs a lot of money to import food. And if it gets too high, how will we get the food in? What if we can't afford the gasoline to truck the food into the cities?
People are going to become more and more interested in growing their food locally, how to do it. They're going to have to. It isn't a matter of philosophical what's going to come down the pike. It's sort of like we're in the days of purification, as my Indian friends say.
Small farms are going to be a real important part of regrowing the economy in Michigan and nationally. For communities to be able to feed themselves is, I don't know what could be more important, really.
Do we have enough type of people sitting around this table to counteract all the McDonald's folks? Hey, if tomorrow 10% of the people who were planning to go to Arby's and Burger King and McDonald's didn't show up, it would make the front page of the New York Times. It would be like the Boston Tea Party. The point is, if we're gonna really do this, we gotta get serious.
So we can talk about being green, we can talk about how important it is to eat right and so forth, but there is no experiment, or there's really no good teaching situation other than the real situation. Until you get into the earth and grow a healthy tomato or something, we're not really doing the main education job.
Can you eat it, Mommy? Yes, go ahead. Eat it. Can you give one to your mom?
The earth, the air, and the water have a lot of value. That's what we maybe need to start recognizing in academe, and not just talking about it, but actually getting all of the students out in that environment more.
I'd like to incorporate more of a teaching element in my life so I can work more with kids and expose them more to this way of lifestyle. I'll hold it so the milk stays in. There you go, now squeeze it. What do you think about that? Pretty cool, huh? Whoa. It's pretty warm, isn't it?
I suspect we would see less violence, less aggression, less unethical kinds of financial scams going out there, were people to spend more time gardening. One study that I read about recently is that when kids play on asphalt, they fight more than when they play on grass.
See, we harvested the apples, now we're going to make the apples into juice and cider.
So there's something about nature that helps people be more peaceful, more focused, and maybe kinder to each other.
Nothing in there. I won't lie to you. Well, don't eat my hand. Oh, don't eat my hand. I still have a certain amount of aggression in me, but I love this environment that sucks that right out of you. And now, out of this environment, I know I can go back to the way I lived for a lot of years. but I'm 60 now. I damn sure one day going to get my butt beat instead of beating it. So that's not a way to go. Now, if you saw me on the street with my shirt off, you'd say, that sucker. Here's old Mr. Redneck. No, but get to know me. And I'm a whole different person. Like I tease Tony. He's Jewish. And I have all these tattoos that are really anti-Semitic. And we laughed one day. I said, Tony, let's call it Gazette. Let's tell them to do a full-page spread on how the Nazis and Jews coexist in Lake Village.
In a perfect world.
All right, here we go, everybody.
That's what she said. Quoting from another book she read. There are no words to tell me why. There is no old white man up in the sky.
I know you want to hide from me. Okay. All right, little boy.
You do the boy first, huh?
Yeah. All right, little baby. Well, you want to do it or should I do it?
I'll do it.
Okay. Watch his ear. Go, Bubbers.
His little heart's beating so fast.
It's okay. That's vitamin E. Come here, babies.
Good boy.
Okay. Huh?
Good job. Looks good, huh?
So this is called disbudding. When they grow horns, they're these big, huge, hard masses on their head, and when you have educational programs with kids coming out to the farm, you can't have the goats. There's the danger of injury with the goats with horns around the kids. And then goats headbutt one another quite a bit, and so they tend to hurt one another if they have horns, and they can also get caught in fences, so it's in the long run better for the goat.
I think one time I heard the sound of the goats crying, and I realized that I never wanted to be around for that.
Leave the dream of hearth and home that never will come through.
What do you mean by utopia?
Live and die and gone, live and die and gone. Leave the dream of hearth and home, live and die and gone. Live and die and gone, live and die and gone. Leave the dream of hearth and home, live and die and gone.
Maybe utopia is inside of the person. I love my life. It's perfect.
I'll always be a Marine. I truly believe what I did. If I didn't, I'd go crazy. Because you mean all this sacrifice. And pains I felt for 40 years was for naught. Now how stupid would that be? It drives you right up the wall. So you got to look at the positive things, the friendship, the camaraderie. I was down in I had a little underground hole I used to go into when we weren't on operation. I came back and my new monthly Playboy was there. So I was down on my bunk with that centerfold out, just talking to Mr. Happy. And my captain walked out in, to talk to me about something that occurred on the operation. And he walked in, he said, "Oh, Sergeant Jennings, sorry to bother you." I said, "I'll be done in just a couple minutes." He walked out. I mean, it was just those moments I laughed because I think, this grown man, you know, but that's just things like that I can laugh about.
I can't think of a better life than what I'm living. I mean, for a lot of people, this would be punishment. For me, it's a blessing to be able to have chickens and peacocks and fox and coyote and animals, the cattle, and have the horses, and have all of nature, a natural environment around me closer. That's my utopia.
As far as improving on it, there's nothing you can do. I maybe fix the fence lines, make the fence lines look more, but maybe that's part of the character, part of the mystique about it. There's nobody cares about, as long as it keeps the animals in. That's cool. I'd like to get more residents, single, women between 50 and 60, because my pickings are slim.
It's a very peaceful place. And a lot of things are in balance, seem to be in balance out here.
What this place is peace of mind. Is that utopia? I don't know. Everybody has what they consider their own utopia. To me, peace of mind.
It's really created a real type of contentedness in myself. I really like that. I feel good about what I'm doing.
So yeah, I think I found the life for myself, the lifestyle anyway, that I want to lead, is farming. There's really no going back to the office for me.
I will be here till I die. I have no qualms about it. I will be here till I die. I'm that happy here. So, everybody's got to put up with that pain in the butt job. But Roger laughs. He said, "I love you."
So when I move here in the spring, I can do this every morning.
I did not hear you say that.
Oh yeah. We won't show the township this video.
My advice is just never sleep. I'm pretty sure it's legal if you never sleep.
It's a perfect world when the power fails, when the villains rule and the heroes are in jail. Enjoy the show or try to get your money back. Someday we might all look back and laugh from our own perfect world.
Lake Village is the place to be. Farm living is a life for me. Land spread out so far and wide. Keep Manhattan, just give me this countryside.